Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Do or do not. There is no try.
So Rocky IV, Rocky vs. Drago, aka the Ultimate Director's Cut, has finally been released. A lot of times when you get director's cuts of films, there's usually just some deleted scenes that are added that make for a longer runtime. Rocky vs. Drago is unique in that it actually reshapes the story, and I honestly thought that it created a completely different tone for this movie.
No shit.
Rocky IV has always been identified as the most over-the-top Rocky film. It always felt larger than life and kind of like a guilty pleasure crowd pleaser. What I felt the director's cut did was actually make this story a bit more grounded and personal. That's not to say that the iconic montages or the superhuman fights have been removed. All that is still present. But it's everything in between those crowd-pleasing moments that's enhanced in this version of the film. Particularly with the character of Apollo Creed, who has a much bigger presence in this movie.
You son of a bitch.
The movie begins with Apollo, actually, as he's dealing with the prospect of his career fading away. You get a sense that he misses the fight. He misses the limelight that comes along with the fights. So when this powerful newcomer named Ivan Drago shows up, Apollo jumps at the chance to turn a possible fight with this Russian into a spectacle. But more importantly, he's viewing it as an opportunity to once again prove himself. The problem is that for some reason Apollo has always been this character who feels like he needs to prove himself to everyone. Like when he fights Rocky in Rocky II, that's what ultimately leads to his downfall and Rocky finally defeating him. Of course, this situation is made even worse because Apollo actually ends up dying tragically in the ring.
If he dies, he dies.
The whole idea that Rocky could have stopped the fight before this happened is also enhanced in this movie. You get to see a little bit more of Apollo pulling the friend card and telling Rocky, if you're my friend, you won't stop this fight. And Rocky knows how much this means to Apollo, and he hesitates throwing in the towel, making this an absolute tragedy. To this day, the final moments of this first fight actually still give me anxiety. Every time I watch it, I hope and pray for another outcome, but it never really comes. And even after Apollo dies, his presence looms heavy over this film throughout the rest of the runtime. I also felt like Drago himself gets a few more character moments in this version of the movie. They're tiny moments, but they do make him a bit more relatable, specifically when it's made very clear he's being used as a propaganda puppet by his Soviet handlers.
Because it's all part of the plan.
You really get the sense that the people around Drago aren't doing him any favors and are actually influencing him in the wrong way. Which is kind of interesting because that's also an idea that they tried to cover in Creed 2, which is a continuation of this story. So it actually makes these two movies kind of flow a little bit better.
That makes sense.
I found Rocky himself to be not all that much different in this version. He's kind of just Rocky doing his Rocky things. He feels a sense of duty. He wants to defend his friend's honor. And there's also a little bit of him wanting to prove himself as well. There is an extended funeral sequence where Rocky proclaims how important Apollo was to his career. If you couple that with the extended opening sequence that kind of recaps Rocky III, it really is a nice moment, and again, it kind of adds weight to Apollo's death.
I like it a lot.
I felt like the political aspect of this film was a little bit more predominant as well. Apollo even talks about it in the extended opening sequence of this film when he has a conversation with Rocky about wanting to fight Drago. It's made very clear that these two fights are much more than just two men going against each other. Each man represents a different culture, a different way of thinking. There's no robot girlfriend in this version of the film, so we can all be thankful for that.
I'm having trouble.
But Paulie does get a nice moment with Rocky where he tells him how much he means to him. And I kind of do love how their relationship develops throughout the course of this series. Adrian, as always, is a presence in this movie. Not only does she act as a voice of reason for Rocky, she actually tries to be the voice of reason for Apollo as well. She tells them both that they have nothing to prove and that they're taking unnecessary risks. But as Rocky proclaims to her, don't ask me to stop being a man. You know, macho shit.
Oh yeah!
All the stuff that people loved about this movie, because I know it's some people's favorite Rocky movie, is still intact here. You have Rocky doubting himself, you have these epic training montages, which are some of the best in the series, and you have Rocky overcoming insurmountable odds to defeat a superior opponent. And that's one thing Rocky films have always been good at, is building his opponents up as serious threats. There's always a chance that Rocky will not win, and that's always interesting to me. I don't know about anybody else, but I typically get very inspired by Rocky movies. 80s. I mean, how can you not want to work harder after watching this movie? Or at the very least, go punch someone in the face that you don't like. If you don't feel that energy, then you might not have a pulse.
I'm gonna go pick a fight.
Quick note about the final fight in this film. Stallone actually revealed that he nearly died taking a punch from Dolph Lundgren. They actually kept the punch in the film, and Stallone ended up spending 4 days in the hospital. The moral of this story is, don't fuck with Dolph Lundgren, I guess.
I must break you.
I think Rocky vs. Drago is a must-see for any Rocky fan. Even if you don't end up enjoying it more than the theatrical version, which I would understand, it's still actually really interesting to see such a tonally different version of a over-the-top movie that was made in the 80s. The reshaping of this story feels very much like a passion project for Sly. Like, this is the story that he originally wanted to tell. I did notice some issues with some of the added footage looking a bit grainy, and there are times where some of those new scenes kind of ruin the pacing of the movie a little bit, but I have to admit, I thoroughly enjoyed Rocky IV, Rocky vs. Drago. It's still not my favorite Rocky movie, but I do think that I actually enjoyed this version a little bit better than I enjoyed the theatrical version. So for that reason, I'm going to give it the pleased Palpatine. Good. So have you seen the director's cut of Rocky IV? If you have, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Y'all be cool. Shut up.